So Nick Fuentes has seemingly fully dedicated his time these days to taking down Donald Trump, and it's kind of hilarious. So here he is on his show. What he's going to be responding to here is Trump went on Lex Friedman's podcast, and there was a moment where he accidentally told the truth, and he said he, quote, lost by a whisker. Okay? Well, Nick is not too happy about Trump's admission there, and he has a lot to say about it. Let's listen.
It's just because it's bullshit. They sold out. They sold out everything that MAGA represented at one point, and everything that it was is no longer. It's just really sad. And the 2020 comment, it's like, wow, that's how pathetic it's gotten. He's admitting, he says, oh, I lost by a whisker. So what was the point? Like, what's the point of any of it? You lost in 2020? Seriously? I mean, what are we even doing anymore? Then you're a loser. Then you're a loser. You just lost. Then you lost to Joe Biden. You deserve to be charged. If he admits that he lost, then that actually vindicates the DOJ charge against him. Because the charge is that he knew he lost, but he lied to defraud the people. That's the DOJ's charge. So why did we do Stop the Steal? Why did anyone go to January 6th? Why is anyone sitting in jail? Why did anything bad happen to anybody? Why did everyone get censored? Why is everything bad that has happened to the people that are involved, why did that need to happen if you're just going to walk it all back and say, oh, I lost? Well, it would have been good to know that before 1,600 people got charged. It would have been good to know that before I had all my money frozen, put on a no-fly list, banned from everything, lost all banking and payment processing. Would have been good to know that before I, in 2017, dedicated my life to this as an 18-year-old in college. Just feels like a big ripoff. And don't get me wrong, I'm an adult. It's not whining. I'm not complaining about it. I'm saying you can't say those things for that reason. Like, don't get me wrong. I don't regret anything, and we all make our choices. And look, it didn't work out. It is what it is. So I'm not mad saying I want those years back. I want those decisions back. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that just goes to show what a tremendous betrayal it is. It's just such a callous indifference to the sacrifices that his supporters made on his behalf. People are more willing, I think, to tolerate losing than a total betrayal. It feels now like the whole thing, and it wasn't pointless, but that's how it feels at this point. So I know everyone considers me to be an extremist, but I'm the logical conclusion of Trumpism from 2016. I was the Trump generation. I turned 18 when he became president. I was one of the first guys, one of the first influencers in the post-Trump world. And I didn't leave the movement. The movement left me.
He is not happy, is he? He is not happy. Look, what I have to say to you, Nick, is, so he's had moments in the past also where he is sort of messed up and accidentally told the truth. This has happened a few times, but I guess the other times it just didn't get as much press. It wasn't as high profile. In the Lex interview, for whatever reason, it blew up. Now, by the way, I could also point out, having watched the full Lex interview a number of times, there's other times in that podcast where he says the opposite, where it was a fraud, they stole it. He does his whole tap dance. But yes, there was that one moment where he accidentally slips up and says, and they won by a whisker, or I lost by a whisker, something to that effect, right? But he's saying it would have been better to just lose and acknowledge you lost than pretend you won when you know you lost, and then you betray everybody, and all these people go to jail for you, and there was January 6th, then it caused all these problems for so many people, and you are walking away, but everybody else is picking up the pieces, and they're the ones who get punished. That's what he's saying. But what I would say to Nick Fuentes is, did you ever read the original indictment from Jack Smith? Because they laid it out very clearly. Trump knew he lost. He always knew. In that indictment, Trump acknowledged to co-conspirator 3 that his rigged election claims were, quote, crazy. He said that about his own rigged election claims. When he tried to get Mike Pence to overturn the result, and Pence said no, Trump looked at him and said, quote, you're too honest, Mike. You're too in other words, I know you're telling the truth. I'm lying, and I'm lying on purpose. I know you're telling the truth. You're too honest, telling people that we lost. Trump worked with co-conspirator 4 to open sham election crime investigations. He forced the Justice Department to send letters to the states fraudulently saying they've identified significant concerns that may have impacted the outcome of the election. This is why Bill Barr resigned. He was like, there is no evidence of widespread fraud, and you want me to falsely send letters to the state saying there is evidence of widespread fraud, because this was all part of the fake elector plot. The attempt to say, no, Biden's electors are not the right ones. We have the right ones. Here's a quote from the indictment. On January 6th, as violence ensued, the defendant and co-conspirators exploited the disruption by redoubling efforts and trying to convince members of Congress to further delay certification based on false claims. So in other words, even after all the violence, even after all the arrests, even after the Capitol was broken into, even after the tear gas is still in the air, and they're trying to block the certification, they're still making phone calls saying, don't do it. Don't certify Joe Biden. Does Nick Fuentes know that internally, Trump's team was referring to what they were doing as, quote, the fraudulent elector memo, and they sent emails that said, here are the fraudulent elector instructions. They used the term fraudulent. They used that term. On December 13th, again, from the indictment, co-conspirator 1 and 5 had a conversation where they decided the plan is no longer to do fake electors in case Trump wins, but to do it no matter what, even if it's proven that he loses. In other words, they were hoping some of the 60 court cases would cut in their direction, or that you have some of the secretaries of state or the governors step in and say, hey, there's something wrong here. They're waiting on recounts and audits, etc. And they say, no matter what comes in, we're going to move ahead with our plan. We're going to move ahead with our plan. Again, a senior White House advisor internally in a meeting with Trump told Trump, quote, we would be certifying illegal votes if we do this. So he knew every step of the way. And here's the thing. If you had listened to Donald Trump's liberal critics, they were warning you, they were telling you, and they were right. Could we just spare a moment here to state out an uncomfortable truth for a lot of people, which is that the resistance liberals ended up being right on almost everything. Their biggest swing and a miss was, of course, Russiagate, which was bullshit. But outside of that, they hit after hit after hit. And they were warning everybody, and they were telling everybody, and people didn't listen. Right? And now, this is Nick Fuentes basically being like, yeah, the liberals were kind of right. You don't say. You don't say. So anyway, he's now on a crusade against Trump, and I'm here for it. I want him to keep doing it. I want him to keep, splitting up that right-wing base, making his own followers feel like Trump's a fraud. Fair enough. I like it. Now, of course, I think Nick Fuentes' main problem with Trump is that he's not enough of a Nazi, right? He's probably mad. I don't know. I'm not 100% sure on this, but perhaps he's mad that Trump has now flip-flopped on abortion stuff. Perhaps he's mad that Trump has said some stuff about how he wants more legal immigration. Perhaps he's mad that Trump is out there saying he's in favor of legalizing weed now. Like, perhaps he's mad that Trump is tweeting about how he's great for reproductive rights. Like, my guess is he's mad that Trump is seemingly trying to pivot to the center to moderate to win a general election. In other words, he's like, hey, we're white nationalists and you're not being white nationalist enough. I guess that's like the core of his criticism. But whatever tears him apart, by all means, go right ahead, proceed. Because the end result of that is Trump loses. So keep going. Keep going, fellas. It's wild to see because it in the recent past, it's always been the left at each other's throats. In the recent past, it's always been the left at each other's throats. But now you're starting to see it all over the place on the right. There is that. That's what happens when you're losing. That's what happens when your numbers go down. And Trump's now down 6 points, according to some recent polls against Kamala. And when you're losing, everybody's looking to point fingers at others, right? So there's a civil war within the pro-life movement, the moderate pro-life people versus the super pro-life people. They're at each other's throats right now. They're at each other's throats. Then you get, the Nick Fuentes types, the white nationalists who think Trump is not white nationalist enough. They're at each other's throats. And it's not going to stop. It's not going to stop. The more polls come out showing him down, the more everybody's pointing fingers and the more they're ripping each other to shreds, and I'm here for it. All right, guys, that's the show. Love y'all very much. You know the drill. Everybody click like, click subscribe. Support the show on Patreon, please. That helps out massively. Costs you nothing, or you could tip on YouTube. That also means a lot. Remember, guys, I don't talk to any advertisers, so you guys really help move this show forward and fund it. Deeply, deeply thankful to all of you. And that's all I got for you. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a great rest of your day. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop. And watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.